Right?
Good.
Did you all already have dinner?
Yes.
Yes.
So do y'all have like preschool people in your lives that you want to cook for?
Yes.
Yes.
Grandkids.
What was that, grandkids?
Grandkids.
Oh, that's so sweet.
But mom doesn't cook. I got to get better.
Holly is on.
Well, I hope you get some good ideas from tonight's class. I'm trying to keep it simple.
Good. Well,
So will she tell me when to start? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we can start now. Okay, oh great. So hi everyone, welcome to our preschool cooking class, preschool lunch extravaganza. I'm Louisa. Just FYI, we are gonna put this class on YouTube. So if you do not want to be seen on the video, send a message to Mihal and she will not put you on. So, okay, so we are gonna demo 3 recipes tonight, and I wanna get started because the stew takes a little while. I'm trying to give you a little bit of a range of things to learn. Some things are hot, some things are room temperature, and there's one kind of like little dessert thing. So, I believe you do not have the recipes yet, is that correct?
yes.
Did you get in an email? No one got it. Okay. Then Mihal's going to email them to you after the class. And it's my fault. I did not get her the recipes until very late. That's because I was cooking them and writing them down at the same time. Anyway, the first one we're going to do is, and everything tonight's vegetarian. The first one is a stew with beans, vegetables, and noodles. Okay, so it doesn't really have a name, but it has a bunch of different vegetables. And have people here made stews before?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know about you, but for me, a stew generally always starts with sauteing some onions. So I sauteed some onions over here, and I figured I would skip that part. I did it ahead of time. But I diced my onions, sauteed them until they started to turn golden brown, 15 minutes-ish. So that's where I'm at. I have a Dutch oven on the stove, and that's where I'm gonna make my whole stew. So my Dutch oven is hot. My onions look really nice. The next thing I'm gonna add in is some diced cremini mushrooms. You could kind of use, any run-of-the-mill mushrooms in this, but the creminis looked nice, so I just diced them up like this. Gonna throw these in. And I guess I'll set a timer, even though it's gonna make an annoying ringing sound at a certain point. But timers are important. With mushrooms, you want the texture to be nice and appealing, and with a lot of these dishes you kind of want them to fade into the background so the preschooler doesn't notice them, so you sneak in as many vegetables as possible. So the trick with mushrooms is you really need to let them cook for a while so they don't have that rubbery texture, so a lot of the water gets cooked out of them. So that's what's happening over here. So I set a timer for 15 minutes. I'm just going to keep kind of stirring over here and checking in on them, and then I'll throw in the rest of the ingredients, which is some chickpeas, garlic, some tomato paste, some dried herbs, some vegetable stock, and you'll see, and you'll get the recipe. But it's pretty standard, like vegetarian stew recipe. And if anyone has any questions at any point, please just, I don't know, you can feel free to shout them out. That might be the easiest way to communicate with me.
I'm
Over Zoom.
I'm on the chat as well.
What's that?
I'm on the chat as well if you need to add.
Yeah, or you can they can type in on the or you can type in your question. All right, so that is starting. My timer's going for 15 minutes. So meanwhile, I'm gonna start it on another recipe. And does everyone here know Michal? Does anyone know Michal? Okay, well, Michal is the person that is my sort of liaison at the JCC, and she and I planned this class together. And luckily, she has a preschooler, and she has another preschooler on the way. But she had a lot of really great ideas. So this is actually her dish that she suggested to me. It's kale and potato cakes. So it's like a savory little patty. So it's really just kale, onions, eggs, and mashed potatoes, and I'm gonna make this in the pan. So yeah, as I said, generally, so I have a almost 5-year-old, and for me, you know, the goal is getting as many healthy ingredients into his diet as I possibly can, whether it be sardines, whether it be kale, you know, and generally I kind of have to sneak them in. So this is the idea behind this recipe. So I'm starting by heating my skillet on medium. I'm putting in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Put that right in there. I like to be generous with the fats because fat carries flavor. And you want to make these dishes as appealing as possible to the little ones so they're tempted to eat them. So I'm just, while this pan is warming up, I'm stirring my mushrooms in my stew, and they're starting to soften and they're starting to give up some of their water, and they're gonna lose that rubbery texture that they have. So that's smelling good. This pan is looking hot, so I'm gonna start again and with my kale cakes with some onions, some diced onions. So these are my diced onions that I cut up before. It's like a regular dice. Throw these in. Yeah, it's all about onions. Even though onions are kind of a real pain to chop, and you know, they have a strong smell, they are so good, and I can't imagine a meal without them. So I'm gonna let my onions kind of brown over there, and once they're browned, I'm gonna add some kale. So I have about 6 leaves worth of kale, and I just kind of coarsely chopped it up. Doesn't need to be a big deal. You don't really want any long strands of kale in anybody's mouth. So I'll just kind of go over this, but yeah, nothing needs to be uniform. Kale is super healthy, and it's good for kids to have leafy greens. So I think if you could find a delicious way to get some kale into their diets, you know, it's a really good thing. And I'll tell you, this is some organic kale because I washed it off when I was preparing everything for today, and I did find some little tiny green worms in my sink, so I know this is the real deal. So I'm just sauteing my onions over there. These are browning for the kale cakes. They don't need to get really brown. I'm just gonna sort of soften them. Maybe it take them like 10 minutes. Meanwhile, my mushrooms are softening. These are looking really nice. I wish I could bring you with a close-up into my pots here, but you just have to trust me. See. So yeah, so while those things are just kind of cooking away, it's going to take a little time. Does anyone want to talk about what they what are some challenges that you've had with trying to cook for preschoolers? I would be curious to know if anyone has had any challenges or has it, attempted to cook for a preschooler.
Well, I think my grandson ate so many of those squeeze containers where you just squeeze them in your mouth. He's only about 3 now, but he ate those forever, and it's hard to get a real anything in him.
Yeah, what did you think of those squeezy things?
Well, that's my daughter. I thought they were. I mean, I guess they're good for what they're good for, but now I think it's the texture of everything else. He just won't touch it.
Yeah. Are you someone that likes to, cook real food a little bit more than that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, more. I mean, I'm not a good cook. That's why I'm on here. But I'm worried about him. So I've got his little sister. She's okay. She'll eat everything in sight.
Oh, well, that's great. I tell you, I love a good eater. Like a child that really likes to eat. I mean, oh, Noam is pointing at herself, my lovely assistant here. Yeah, were you a kid that liked to eat everything, Noam?
Always.
Yeah. I wasn't, but it's a wonderful trait. Okay, so yeah. So getting beyond the little squeezy packets. I get that. Anyone else have any challenges with the preschoolers?
Food allergies.
Oh gosh, food allergies. Yes. So, what are the allergies that you've been dealing with?
Eggs, sesame, sunflower, nuts, peanuts, tree nuts.
Wow. I am sorry to say 2 of today's recipes have eggs in them. Are you?
That's why I came on, just to see if there was anything that I could do, because the kale cakes are like the same as those Dr. Prager frozen shapes, the kale shapes that they have. My daughter will eat them. My son can't have them because they have egg in them. But it's not only accommodating his allergies, but the other kids in the class that, so it's that my son's not allergic to all of those items, but, last year we had to accommodate all the different allergies in the class, and now it's a different classroom. So there's fewer, but it gives a good challenge for everybody,
Oh yeah. Wow. I honestly hadn't heard about needing to deal with all of those different allergies in preschool. Like with my kid, we have to be mindful of nuts and any kind of nut butter, but that's it. But so you're talking about quite a wide range. I'm just gonna throw in my chopped kale with the onions now because they're kind of nicely browned. So now I wanna soften up this kale because it's much, much tastier once it's been cooked down a little bit and it's coated in fat and has a little bit of salt on it. So and also to just kind of make the cakes form better, you want the kale to dry out a bit. So I'm also cooking the water out of it as well. So have you become well versed in egg substitutes?
I was going to ask if you could use like a flax egg or an egg substitute for that kale, for the kale cake.
You absolutely could use an egg substitute in this. I mean, I haven't worked out the substitution, but yeah, absolutely. Another thing you could do is I like to use a cooked grain that's been, pureed in a food processor to help bind things. So you could definitely do some rice, some pureed rice in here, dry. I mean, cooked rice that's not like super wet, and you just put it in the food processor and puree it, and then it really becomes gluish, like a real glue. And you could also just do a little shredded cheese. I think that would hold it together. What do you think?
Yeah, that might be good. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like oatmeal. You could do, you know, some pureed oatmeal. You know, as long as it's nice and thick. I was originally going to have cheese in these kale cakes, and then I took it out because I put cheese into another recipe. But you could, cheese is a delicious addition to this if you want to put it in. Okay, so I'm going to let my kale just kind of get a little tender over here, and it's looking really nice. It's turning bright green, and let's see. Meanwhile, I am going to take so another thing that's going to help hold this together is mashed potatoes. So I have some potatoes that I mashed earlier, and you know, if you have leftover mashed potatoes around, this is a fun thing to use them in. They don't have to be perfect or anything. They can be chunky. So mine are pretty chunky. So those are my potatoes, and I am going to crack 2 eggs into here. And this is going to sort of be my base for holding these kale cakes together. Yeah, those are all really good challenges to take on with allergies, and then trying to get kids food that's like a tiny bit more sophisticated than squeezies. Anyone else have any challenges they've been working with? And I'm just gonna kind of whisk this egg and potato mix together here. All right, well, on a positive note, is there anything anyone has really had a success with feeding little ones that you feel really good about? I can tell you that I make a lot of pancakes for my kid, and I feel like I'm just gonna season this mixture here with some salt and pepper. I feel like pancakes are a great vehicle for sneaking stuff in. My child does not have a nut allergy, so if it's a food that he's not eating at school, I will often try and put nuts in his pancakes because, well, nuts are really, high in healthy fats. And my kid is tiny, so I'm always trying to help him gain weight.
Oh, so it's
So I'm a big fan of nuts. And I think what else I speak in. I speak in a lot of dried fruit because fiber is really good for kids. If they're only getting highly processed foods, they're not really going to get a lot of fiber, and that's really important. So let's see, my kale and onion mixture looks really nice. I don't know if you can see this. Can I see this? Oh, good. Perfect. Everything's tender. You can see that the onions have some nice browning on them. And then I guess I can show you there's my timer. That was 15 minutes on the mushrooms. So I don't know if you can really see this, but they're much, much smaller now. They've really cooked down. They've released a lot of their water, and they just look much more appetizing now. They're nice and they're getting golden.
Betty asked what nuts do you like to use?
Oh, I generally like any nut. Let's just see what's my next step here. Oh, okay. And I'm gonna address the nut thing. I love talking about nuts. But let me keep this stew going here for the moment. I'm gonna add my minced garlic in here. And yes, even children, little children can eat meals with garlic in them. I give my kids a lot of garlicky food. I'm very convinced it's one of those, you know, food as medicine things. It's really healthy. Throwing in my chickpeas, just some can of drained chickpeas. I have 1/4 cup of tomato paste. You know, tomatoes are kind of a perfect food because they add sweetness and acid and, you know, what's called umami, the fifth taste, hot, sour, salty, sweet, and umami. So that's why a lot of stew recipes will call for tomato paste or tomato, even tomato sauce. And what I cooked in restaurants, you know, if you were making a dish and it needed something, you know, you would always hear, is there some tomato product in the house? You know, it could be anything. It could even be ketchup. Okay, so I got my tomato paste in there. Oh, I'm gonna throw in some dried herbs. So you can use, you know, any dried herbs that you like. I am throwing in a mixture of some basil. Oh, I hate these tiny little tops. You can never get anything out. Here we go. Put in some basil, some rosemary. So good. And I'm just gonna kind of grind these up in my hand as I put them in, kind of activate those with the oil, just the natural oils in my hand. This is some oregano. I'm a huge fan of oregano. And some thyme. Get that in there. This is looking so wintry and just kind of rich. You can see this with the mushrooms and the tomato sauce and the dried herbs. And then get those out of the picture. Okay, I'm gonna put in a little salt and pepper at this point because I'm definitely of the school of seasoning and salting as you go, rather than just adding it at the end, because it just gives a fuller, richer flavor. And I'm using kosher salt, which, did anyone see Samin Nosrat's TV special, her 4-part series, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat? Did anybody watch that?
No.
Well, if it's still out on Netflix, I highly recommend it. It's just some really good basic information about seasoning, and I learned a ton. And now she loves kosher salt, so now I love kosher salt. Okay, so I got all my nice stuff in there. It's all been coated with the oil. I'm gonna pour in 2 cups of water. You could also use vegetable stock if you want, but this is sort of gonna be the body of the stew. So I'm gonna let that come to a boil. And then I'm gonna let it simmer for just like 20 minutes until it's slightly thickened. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. I'm really excited. When we were planning the class, we said, oh yeah, we can just use kind of any vegetables we want. And so when I went to the store to shop for everything, I saw mushrooms, and once it hits cold weather, I don't know about you, but I get a taste for mushrooms, so I bought these mushrooms. Okay, so I'm gonna let this come to a boil. Now, I am gonna take my kale and onion mixture, which has been cooling a little bit, and I'm gonna put it in here with my potato and egg mixture. So anyway, so back to nuts though. I am a big fan of walnuts They are supposed to be really healthy. Don't ask me what exactly for, but I love walnuts, and I will try and either chop them up or even grind them up into like powder and put them in my kids' food. I also really like almonds. I like peanuts, but you know, I'm almost, with all the peanut allergies that are floating around, not with my kid, but just in general, I'm almost scared off from buying peanuts and peanut butter these days. So I don't use peanuts that much, even though I love them. I also really like sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. I love hazelnuts, but I mean, they're a little expensive and sophisticated for a child. So he doesn't really get the hazelnuts, but I do. Okay, so this is coming to a boil. So I'm gonna turn it down, let it simmer, partly covered for 20 minutes. And that should be good, and then it'll be almost done. This timer is so sensitive. If you press it the wrong way, it stops the clock instead of keeping it going. Okay. So I'm gonna heat my skillet over here, and this is where I'm gonna make my little kale cakes. And this is my batter right here. Yeah, so other things that I sneak into my kids' pancakes, nuts, dried fruit, sweet potato, mashed sweet potato, mashed, you know, any kind of squash, which is really healthy. Yeah, they're just a great vehicle because you put cinnamon and vanilla into anything, and you know, butter and milk and stuff, and it just kind of disguises the taste of anything that's overly healthy tasting, I think. I've also found that tomato sauce is a really good mask for things in anything savory. If I want to get, you know, some meat into him, or you know, as I was saying, I like to give him sardines. If you put enough tomato sauce in, it just makes it kind of tangy and sweet. So I'm a big fan. All right, so I am going to drop in my batter here, and hopefully these little kale cakes are going to look beautiful. So here's my batter. I think my pan is hot, so I'm just going to take a big spoonful and drop it in. Ooh, these look really nice. So does this look doable to people, like something you could take on or see you doing a version of yourself?
I'm learning so much and I don't even have kids.
Did everybody hear that? That's Noah, my lovely assistant over here.
Yeah. I'm in distance with a mask and I can
we're distant.
smell everything, and it's lovely.
I'm going to talk about one piece of equipment that I have that I love. This is called a lasagna spatula. It's really wide and it's really tough and durable, and it's from OXO. I use this for everything, every single day. You can get all the way under, you know, a little cake like this. Ooh. I don't know if you can see this stew, but it's looking really rich. All right, so I'm gonna turn over my little kale cakes here. They've just been cooking for a few minutes. Oh my gosh, these look really nice. Yeah, so Mihal told me that she makes a version of these for her kid. And I thought that sounds delicious. I want to try that. So yeah, I'm just gonna cook these until they're kind of golden brown on both sides and the eggs are cooked through. Obviously everything else is already cooked, so this is not a big deal. Pretty simple. It's just a savory little cake. What was that, Noel?
Maybe we can try to move so people can see
Yeah, that would be
What's go-
great.
what's going on.
Oh, some advanced camera work is happening.
And with the mask, people, don't worry.
She's got a mask on. You should turn it to yourself and show you. So these are my nice little cakes here.
Amy said that she likes to use walnuts.
Oh yeah? What do you like to use it in? Oh my gosh, excuse me, these look really good. I am going to be feeding these.
I'm so happy I have long arms.
Do you want to get in on
Yeah.
the stew pot here?
For everyone.
Oh, thank you. Looks delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mushrooms and oil.
It's a lot of movement of the camera, but we just wanted to show you.
So I do a lot of Iranian cooking. My dad is originally from Iran. And stews are a big part of Iranian food. So I think these little kale cakes are done. Can you show how cute these are?
Yeah.
Oh, these are adorable. And anyway, from cooking Persian food, I learned that what makes a really, really good stew is a lot of fat. So now if I see oil gathering on the top layer of a stew, instead of thinking it's weird, I think, wow, I bet that's really good. So that's the kale cakes. Does anyone have any questions about those? Besides, an egg substitute? You can put any vegetables in there that you want. You could do shredded squash would be delicious in there. You could do broccoli. Okay, while the stew is cooking, and so those kale cakes are done, I'm just going to show you those three. I want to show you another little thing we made. This was also Michal's idea. These are little muffin tin frittatas, and you're going to get the recipe for these too. Another egg-based thing, but man, I don't know about you, but for myself, I use eggs in my child's breakfast almost every morning. So what I did with these are really simple. This was just sauteed onion and sauteed broccoli, but you could use any vegetable you like. I whisked up 4 eggs, couple tablespoons of milk, and I dropped that mixture into the muffin tins, just the whisked eggs. And then I took a dollop of the cooked vegetables and put it in the center of each one of these little mini frittatas. And then I topped them with some shredded cheddar cheese to keep it all together, add a little fat and flavor, because again, with kids, you want to disguise the healthy stuff, especially broccoli. So that's it. I cooked in a little olive oil, a little butter, but this is super simple and you're going to get the recipe for it. Salt and pepper.
Louisa, it's Michal. Can you show it closer to the camera so people can
Yes.
see?
Yeah. Do you want to move the camera or?
Here, I'm going to look away from you.
Michal is the director of this production.
Here, I'll lift one out so you can see. So this is like a really, really easy recipe. And once you make these, you can freeze them. You can refrigerate them. Once they're cooked, they'll last for, a week at least in the fridge. You can cook off 12 at once. And again, each tin only needs about 2 tablespoons of the batter. Drop your vegetables in, top it with cheese, boom. And then just bake these at 350 for 15 to 20 minutes. And they're really simple. Anyone have any ideas for what veggies you might put in a little muffin tin frittata like this? You do potatoes. As I said, zucchini, kale would be really delicious in these, mushrooms.
Great mushrooms.
What's that?
No, I was saying your mushrooms. What about
Yeah,
asparagus?
mushrooms.
I
Yeah,
love
I think mushrooms
asparagus.
would be really good. Yeah, those are really simple. A nice thing with little preschool meals is often, for me, I find, is something that you can feed kid on the go. It's not going to fall apart and that they can eat with their hands. And so this is a perfect thing if it's, cooled down to room temperature. All right, so my stew is cooking away. We made the kale cakes. These are the frittatas. So I'm going to show you our dessert, which is date balls. And Noam, you have to keep me posted on timing because
Okay.
I don't want to run over or have us not finish one of the dishes. So,
Okay. 8:37.
oh, we're getting up there. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do with these is just kind of explain it more than show how I'm doing it. Basically, these date balls are really, really simple. It's a no-cook recipe. It calls for oats, toasted pumpkin seeds, coconut flakes, cinnamon, vanilla, tahini, and medjool dates. So here are all those beautiful ingredients. So you want to get like these nice, soft, tender medjool dates. Old-fashioned oats are just, this kind, the quicker cooking kind. Toasted pumpkin seeds, unsweetened coconut flakes. Okay, and then I like to add a little salt, some vanilla, and some cinnamon. I feel like vanilla and cinnamon make things taste like they have sugar in them even when they don't. So that's kind of nice if you're trying to give a kid something sweet, but you don't want to give them a whole lot of sugar. Of course, dates are naturally sweet, but it's not processed sugar. Okay, so you just take those ingredients, you put them in the food processor all together, you whiz them around, you pulse, pulse, pulse. You can scrape down the sides until it comes together into kind of a dough. And the dates break down into a puree and all the other things break down into tiny little pieces. So this is what it looks like after it comes out of the food processor. I was going to show you putting it in the food processor, but you don't need to see that in the interest of time. So you have this nice dough. And once you make this dough, you can set it aside in the fridge covered and come back to it later. You can make part of it into date balls. You don't have to use all of it. It's sometimes kind of nice when you make a dough like this to let it rest a little bit in the fridge. It becomes easier to work with and less sticky. So right now I'm coating my hands with some oil. It's just it makes sort of a non-stick surface out of my hands. And I'm gonna just pinch a little bit of this dough, roll it into a ball, and that's it. And then if you want to, it's pretty sweet and it has a lot of flavor, but if you want to, you can put in a little chocolate chip. So if you give this to a kid, they really feel like it's a real sweet treat with, one piece of chocolate in there. I go back and forth in terms of how much sugar I give my kid. Sometimes I'm like, no, he's not going to get any processed sugar. And then sometimes, especially when it's something homemade, like homemade cookies or homemade cake, I just say, just have whatever you want. So yeah, it's really easy. You could put any nuts in these. I chose the pumpkin seeds because I figured it's something that less people have allergies to, but they'd be delicious with peanuts. Instead of tahini, you could use almond butter, you could use sunflower butter. There's so many yummy things you could put in there. You could put in dried fruit. Anyone have any thoughts on those? And then once you make them, you can just store them in the fridge covered. And they're so good, I'm gonna have one. Now I can't talk. They're really dense. So someone else ask a question. Or talk.
Muffins are also a really good vehicle to put nutrients in, and they freeze really well. So by the time they eat them, it's not like a pancake where you kind of want it warm.
Yes.
I
This
put
is so
protein
good.
powder,
Muffins.
collagen peptides, all that stuff in there.
Wait, I want to hear that again, but I'm moving my stew along here because we just don't have that much time left.
Okay.
So it's looking thicker. So I'm gonna put in my little frozen vegetable medley here. It's just carrots, corn, string beans, and peas. This is a real shortcut. I don't always use a shortcut like this, but sometimes it's really nice. When you're being realistic and you just don't have that much time. So I'm gonna let these cook just until they're tender and cooked through, and then I'm gonna add in my last ingredient, which will be some cooked noodles. But please continue with what you were saying about what you like to put in the muffins. Were you saying peptides?
I put usually like protein powder or collagen peptides because they can't taste them. It's
Now
like
this is so
every
interesting.
animal.
Why the collagen in the kids' food?
Oh, because I just had it in the house. And it's not harmful to them. So, and it does.
Do you like to eat these muffins as well?
I do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I usually put the peptides in my coffee in the morning, but because they didn't like the taste of like the organic protein powder.
Uh-huh.
So, but they're egg free, and I usually put some ground flax meal in there. Whatever I have on hand. Then
Oh,
they freeze really
great.
well.
Can I show them how it looks?
Oh,
just
yeah,
don't wanna
please, come on
stand
over.
too close.
Yeah, let me stand back and I'll just move this out of the way. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. This is for you guys.
Well, it looks pretty.
Amazing. Yeah, and here are the muffins if you haven't.
Thank you, Nolan. This is great. I love that you're doing this.
It's an arm workout.
I want to hear more about these muffins. What is sort of the body of them?
Bananas, some flour, applesauce. There's no egg, oil. You can use butter in there. I don't. I usually sometimes put blueberries, and cinnamon. I think it was. I forgot the recipe that I used. It was, I think, an Indian site or something.
It sounds like a really good recipe.
It's called Spice Up the Curry, and but it was I looked up vegetarian recipes, so like non-dairy. But yeah, I used coconut sugar instead of white sugar, and I actually put some dates in there instead of the sugar too.
Nice.
The sweetness, and I do add some chocolate chips.
So do your kids like them?
My daughter does. Yeah, she will eat them at school. That's the only thing she eats in her lunch. So.
Does she eat more stuff when she's at home?
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean like the meal when she's away from you is kind of tricky.
Yeah. Well, if it's not the right temperature, or she can't heat it up, home she'll eat it cold with no problem. So I don't know.
I'm the same. My kid, one day he'll eat all of the lunch, and then you'll make it again the next day or the next week, and he won't touch it. You just never know why. I am gonna throw in these cooked noodles because these frozen vegetables are looking pretty tender. And again, you do not have to use frozen vegetables. You could use, a pound of fresh vegetables in there, like whatever you want. Like root vegetables would be very nice in this. I just did the the frozen out of convenience. So I'm throwing in my noodles. This is another thing that I found with my kid is if there's you know, a starch in the meal, whether it's rice or some noodles, or actually mashed sweet potatoes he really likes. He is more likely to go ahead and eat the healthy stuff that's around the starch. So I try and be really mindful of the ratio and do, less processed, white flour starches to, the vegetable ratio, but sometimes it helps to just sneak a few in there. So that's that's my stew. I'm eyeballing it. I think it could use just a little bit more liquid. But there it is. And it's got, tons of vegetables in it. It's got beans. And now I'm just gonna taste it. Another thing from Persian cooking is that almost everything has, that's my timer for cooking it. Almost everything has a lot of acid in it. So we'll often finish a dish with fresh lemon juice or fresh lime juice. So, in a tomato-based stew, often you would cook it with a little bit of red wine for that acid taste. I mean, if you happen to have some red wine, throw some in. But if you don't, you can always do a little lemon juice at the end. This is really good. I think for your recipes that Michal is gonna send you, I'm gonna make it 3 cups of water instead of 2, just to give it a little bit more juiciness. But yeah, put some salt in here. If you're someone that is inclined to kind of thicken up a stew with, something like this with like some cheese when you serve it, you could throw in some cheese. I'm very inclined to, drizzle some extra olive oil onto something when I serve, especially to my kid who I'm always trying to get him to gain some weight. Just add a little more richness and body in there. But yeah, this is what this stew looks like. So I'll have Noam come back over with the close up.
With the shakiness at first, and then, sorry friends. Okay. It looks amazing and it smells incredible. Not just for kids.
Yeah, it really doesn't have to just be for kids, but yeah, and so it's got like a ton of healthy things in it. You could throw in whatever bean you like. It does not have to be chickpeas. So yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any questions about this or anything else they want to just mention, or a recipe that they have had success with that they want to share?
What's your favorite like grocery stores to get the majority of your food from, or like any of your ethnic foods, Iranian food?
Oh, don't get me started on that because I will not stop talking about it. I go to Nolensville Pike generally to get all my Iranian ingredients, and there's 5-6 stores that I like. Sometimes I need some saffron, or sometimes I need some pomegranate syrup, and sometimes I need feta cheese, and each place has, its own strengths, if that makes sense. So Nolensville Pike is where I go to shop. Have y'all been out there for shopping for ethnic foods? Well, it's an adventure. And one day, in fact, I think we talked about this earlier this year, I aspire to do a tour of my favorite Middle Eastern grocery stores over there and do a little shopping trip.
Can I sign up?
What's that?
Can I sign up?
Yeah, can you, yeah. Yeah, but if I had to name one that I really like, I really like a place called Botan Market, B as in boy, O, T as in Tom, A, N. And I want to say the owners are from Turkey and Iraq. And they're really so nice, and they have all a lot of things that I want. Yeah. And then aside from that, I often will shop at the Turnip Truck because it's right near me. And I really like Trader Joe's. I like Trader Joe's for dried fruit and nuts, and actually they have really good kind of free range eggs that I like, Carol's eggs. So yeah. And of course there's the farmer's market, but this past summer, I grew all these vegetables in my front yard, so I didn't even go to the farmer's market this summer, which is completely unlike me, but I did that whole COVID thing of growing your own garden.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Anyone else have anything you want to add? And maybe you'll want to share that muffin recipe with us after.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I kind of like winged certain things, like I used it as a base and then kind of built upon that. But yeah, and also another trick, I always use pureed sweet potato, pumpkin or something in the kids' mac and cheese.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
I feel a
That's
little better sneaking in, some vegetables.
What's that?
I said it makes me feel better knowing that like I'm sneaking in some vegetables.
Yeah. Actually, a cup or two of pureed sweet potato or squash would be really good in the stew.
And then Trader Joe's has like the puree, like the frozen mashed sweet potatoes that come in like little ice cube shapes, basically. So you could I use those a lot and just
Oh, that's so great.
Because it takes away a lot of the work.
Yes, that's a great trick. I don't think I have those kind of ice trays anymore because I have like the ice maker in my freezer. But otherwise, I'm the kind of person that would want to make those myself from scratch. But it's really nice to know you can get that at Trader Joe's.
Luisa, it's Michal here. Everyone, I'm going to send you their recipes as soon as the cooking class is over. But as Luisa
Michal,
said,
don't send them until I do this little tweak on the stew recipe.
okay, well, as soon as Luisa updates her recipes, but also like feel free to do reply all and attach your own recipes.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great, and I wanna read them too.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We really enjoyed it.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Can I see
Bye.
everybody? Who is that? Is that Naomi?
That's